Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors meeting for June 24th, 2019. Our first item of, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and then our first item of business will be to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Jeff has moved, Santos has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3 is receive comments from the public. Does anyone here wish to address the board on the subject not on our agenda?
Sure.
I see some hands. Yes, please introduce yourselves for us. Yes, up at the podium would be great. Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Marissa Risen. This is my dad, Tom Antrim. Resides at 1995 Sweetland Road. And we're here this morning to give you some information and request potential action at a future meeting. I don't know if anyone's familiar. I know Mr. Sauer knows what's going on with Mom and Dad's house. I don't know if everybody else does. So I'll give you a little bit of information. Following the rainy seasons in 1993, 2008, and currently, Mom and Dad's house has sunk. They settled. So
I'm sorry, what was the address again? I just want to...
1995 Sweetland Road.
Thanks.
and they paid out of their pocket to repair and mitigate. So we thought the issues. It is a groundwater issue, so insurance doesn't cover anything. Also, while Muscatine was under a presidential declaration for flooding in those years, they never had water in their home, so they were never able to qualify for FEMA assistance. So it is settling some more. There's also visible areas along the property, not just within the house, where there have been landslide type issues. There's a lot of subsidence going on right now. So what we would like to, request is we've been looking into the potential for a FEMA buyout. I have chatted with Iowa Homeland Security about the potential. They said that because this is a repetitive loss, it should qualify. There shouldn't be too many issues getting it done. It's just a matter of we have to have an entity who's willing to make that purchase. The funding is all through FEMA. They will reimburse for the pre-disaster cost of the home. It's just who's going to take possession of the property following that buyout. So that's what we would request, that the county would look into taking possession of that property and being the intermediary for the buyout. The other concern is there's definitely potential for homes further down the road to see issues in the future. And
There's also this fracturing that's happening along the road in the middle. Now it's got to the middle of the yard. Just this past week, I found another sudden decline in the ground level that is 8 foot off the curb. So I can see this, for everybody's sake in the county, this could be a major cost if we don't do something about it, because I think this could underline and fracture the road, let alone a couple of guys like Marissa said have told us if this thing does go, and when it does go, it's gonna kind of reverberate right down towards the river. And I know that road is a main used road, and it does look like the possibility exists that this whole, our hillside is gonna go.
Tom, what would you, for the public, give a description per se of where your property sets in regard to Sweetland Road, in regard to the ravine that runs? It's not quite parallel, but it's
My house sits about 50 feet off of Sweetland Road. The back wall of the home is 6 feet from where the ravine drops.
How deep is that ravine, would you guess?
250 feet. There's a small creek that runs down through the ravine. I mean, when you walk out off of the deck of the upper story, when you walk over to the edge of the deck, people are kind of do the, because you can look right down there pretty far.
My point I'm making is it's deep and it's steep.
It's deep and it's steep, and as one gentleman said, when this thing goes, my ravine is full of trees, and the trees are all standing straight tall, there's no sliding effect to look at. But we believe that the water running is so deep that when this fracture, if I can say there's a large fracture in the middle of the yard now, that the actual fracture, and you can see where the whole yard has dropped about this far. Then you walk down about 8 feet, there's another drop, and then there's a fracture that's running basically underneath the front of the house, right underneath my bedroom. So there are visible fractures there in the yard, but the big fracture is about 6 inches off of the back wall of the house. It's approximately 10 feet long, and I can tell you that when I found it, I went and grabbed a yardstick. It went down 12 inches before it hit anything, and then you jam it on down, it was like going through quicksand, another 12 inches. So you could actually stick the yardstick 2 feet down. And that's exactly where this all started, is my basement floor is dropping. That's the first indication that we've got a hell of a problem with the water running underneath it, and it's washing out that. And now Randy Van Willits from VSG Engineering in Iowa City came and did all the specs and the lasers. And so from what would be the southeast corner of the home running to the north, the basement floor now drops 4 inches, which needless to say has caused a lot of problems. My wife has got to kill 2 snakes that got in underneath this. So I took steel wool and covered that up. But with the whole flooring giving, we've never had trouble with the west side of the basement. I now have cracks in the floor on that. You can take a hammer, just like the engineer, and you can hear the void underneath. The foundation wall is cracking. It doesn't matter which way you want to go, it's cracking, which leads to the upstairs of the house. It's twisting, and there are fractures. I've got 5 doors I can't close or open. Doors we've taken off. My front door is wedged in right now. So we've got 85% of our stuff moved out. I have not had an official tell me to get out. I've had many other people say, get out. It's going to go. And so I've always told them I like roller coasters anyway, so. But it's gonna be a big, as Scott said, it's a huge drop, and it's a lot of ground that's going to go. And I really think, let alone for me, it being devastating, is the idea that I think this is also carrying towards the road and will carry down the hill unless something is tried to be done to solve it.
Have other neighbors seen issues out there? Have you seen anything?
Not to this majority. A lot of other people have seen their yards a difference, that there's maybe 1 drop. What they told us is because I am the highest and steepest, that's why they think this is happening more or less to me. And maybe just we catch more spring water than the others do. But it seems as if, from a very unprofessional here, that there's like spring water, and it's had so much pressure and it branched out underneath, and that's where I think you're getting 3 definite fractures.
Are the fractures parallel to the road or perpendicular?
Parallel to the road.
How close is it, towards the road, to the west there? How close to the road is the first fracture?
The first fracture, which is on the,
Because it's over the hump.
it's just over the hump. So I would guess that to be about 30
feet maybe?
32 feet from the road.
Yeah.
And then it runs right underneath my driveway. My whole driveway is doing this.
Yeah.
And then the next fracture is a small one, about 5 feet down, and then there's another major fracture 6-7 feet down. That the whole, again, that whole yard in these 2 fractures has dropped significantly. Then there's the major fracture right behind the house that's about 10 feet long and very deep. But I've mowed this place for a long time, so I know every step of it. On the other side of the driveway, up the road, which would be the south side of the driveway. I just measured it 8 feet off the road, all of a sudden there's it's about that wide, and you can see it running parallel with the road. That, they all tell me this is a classic case of wafering and shell moving, and then when it breaks, it won't be just 6 foot up, it's gonna be 60, 100 feet down, and the whole thing's gonna go. And that won't give, you know, the support to the road. I'm worried about that too, because we got a couple of washouts already on Sweetland Road.
Yeah, and in '93, just north of the house, there was significant washout, and I believe the county came in and put some more fill dirt in there because it was such a sharp drop, and that was within 10 feet of the road, 8 feet,
Yeah.
so. But.
There's a lot of movement.
Just wanted to pass that information, and in the future, we might look for, the county would have to be the one to submit a notice of interest to the state for the buyout funds. I will stick around if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards. We don't want to bogart all your time here, but that would be the next step, would be a notice of interest to Homeland Security.
Did they give you any idea what the timeline would be?
Not awesome, but, and just, yeah, if anybody wants to come out to see the house or the property, if zoning or the engineer wanna come out, we'll accommodate them. Yeah, I've got pictures on my phone, and I know he's got a ton of pictures, so. I can show
Keith,
some
have you been out
afterwards.
and looked at that area at all and seen anything out there?
I was out and looked at it, Jeff. There's no doubt in my mind there's gonna be a day that's gonna be the bottom of that ravine. No doubt the way that is.
For sure don't want anybody home when that happens.
No.
Yeah, that's how, every time we're supposed to get heavy rains, I tell him to come stay at my house, so.
Oh,
We've got about 85% of our stuff moved to their base storage.
and there's a, you know, they talk about cracks.
We'll have no endorsements here.
They're talking about,
I'm not getting paid, so that's-
Well, I'm sure of that.
oh, you know him too.
Yeah.
when they talk about cracks in the structure, they're not like you'd think of, like a crack in a drywall that you might see in a home somewhere. I mean, some of these cracks are 2-inch gaps. And getting bigger by the minute. So, that's just.
We did have the LP, or no, the natural gas, we had that taken out, shut off the meter, because we were concerned about explosion on that. Right now, my biggest concern is water, septic, electrical, because the house is literally twisting. And it's, so every wall is affected upstairs, east-west or north-south running walls. They're all cracking.
I don't even think that's the worst part.
Yeah.
And that was from at least a week and a half ago.
Oh, yeah.
so.
Mercy, can you email these to us? Alright, so.
Okay. From what I hear you guys saying, we would need to submit a notice of intent or interest to FEMA.
To the state, yeah.
Can you, I guess, who should we have your point person on this? Is that,
Eric or Brian, or I don't know who.
Yeah, I just wanna make everybody aware, this is the first that I've heard of it, but what's been disclosed, so far, I will have to come out and look, I would be the one that would have to post it. It sounds like it is dangerously close to a dangerous building, and we would have some sort of, most likely an obligation to post if we fear that there is risk to human life. Probably not, I don't know if that's the news that you wanna hear, but
That's what we're.
that would get the
That's
ball,
Yeah.
maybe get the ball
Yes.
rolling.
Yep,
which
and
one would
that's-
be safe? I
That's
mean,
why we're here today,
I
is
just
trying to make
had a
sure that
couple
wall is.
questions on the repetitive loss. Was there any reports in '93 and 2008 to the county as far as damage if we're looking at repetitive
In
loss?
'93 and 2008, it was a selling problem. In '93, they came in from Des Moines and mudjacked which would be the northeast corner of the house, raised it back up to specs. Then you had your huge spring rain in '03, I guess it was. Oh wait, okay. And all of a sudden, the foundation is cracking in the same exact spot, okay, because it's just settling in that corner. The company that had mudjacked it from Des Moines is no longer in business, so we ended up with Tomlinson Cannon out of Coralville. And they came down and told us, well, you don't mudjack that anymore, you put in piers. Go into the bedrock and have a plate that goes underneath your footings. They did 19 piers around the house to quote, make sure it was done right, lifted it back, mudjacked the basement floor, and it worked, we're fine. So, you know, we put out $50,000 just to
Yeah.
keep the house.
I don't know what permits they might have needed, if they would have submitted anything to the county, but I don't think we were told, you know, you don't have standing water,
Right.
so,
Well, that's the question we'll have to ask with FEMA. We'll work with emergency management on, is it truly considered repetitive loss? Repetitive loss is typically when FEMA pays out multiple times. However, if there's some sort of documentation, invoices,
yep,
but
we've got lots of photos
we'll
too,
start.
so.
But I think we'll have to evaluate, most likely, it sounds like may have to post the house as a dangerous building.
Yeah, it's never been to this extent.
There's a number of homes in that area too. I mean, Keith, I would hope that you maybe go out and take a look around the road and some of the area out there and see what you see and kind of give us a little bit of an opinion too, how big a problem this may wind up being, because I grew up in the mountains and this happens all the time and they're catastrophic and quick when they happen, when whole sides of hills will slack off and there's nothing you can do, and typically they involve loss of life and it's not a good thing. So don't give a lot of warning when they go.
We'll probably handle looking at the houses, and then obviously if we see these fractures getting close to the county right away, then Keith's gonna probably want to be involved very quickly, but that would probably fall under our purview there, evaluating the homes themselves. So I'll get your information here.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Anyone else with public comment? Okay, we'll move on to item, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't see it back there. My bad.
Steve and I are neighbors, we are here for the same issue.
Oh, great, okay, well, I'm great.
Well,
Hi, my name is Steve Brisker, I live at 1824 Keokuk Avenue.
And I am Brett Robot of 1813 Keokuk Avenue, directly across the street from Steve.
We're here today to address the board and the county to find out who is in charge of the county ditches and in charge of the road on Keokuk Avenue. There's been signs up for over 2 years on this road saying water over the road. And it's not, some of it is weather related, but Keith's been out and most of it, I would say, is caused by our neighbor digging in the county ditches.
It's a man-made issue. I know there's been a lot of snow and a lot of rain this year, but in the bottom portion of the road, he's been digging in the ditch for several years off and on. And he's completely changed the direction of the flow. At the north end of his property, where there still are 4 drainage tubes that go underneath the road, the water would drain down his ditch and down a little creek that he had along the border of his property. It would flow under the road through these 4 drainage tiles and would flow to the north. And now the ditches are completely silted in on both sides, and the water is being forced back in the opposite direction, which it can't do. So it floods our field, so it does get into our pocket a bit and create an issue. But the biggest issue is it's gouging ditches through the road. And some of these roads, some of these gouges might be as much as 3 feet wide and 2 and 3 feet deep. And there's already been 2 accidents there related to this. One, I believe, may have been alcohol related, if I'm not mistaken, where an individual hit one of these ruts, because if there's enough water to cover the road, which there's always water over the road now, but you can't tell if the road is flush or if you have a 2 or 3 foot deep ravine washed across it. And one vehicle threw it into the ditch, hit our fence. That was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then this winter, there was another truck that tore its front end out, which turned out to be the owner's son. But we have spoken with him about stopping this. He's not interested in stopping it. I'm not quite sure why he's doing the digging. I don't know what he hopes to accomplish, but, and I understand it's not the county's issue to, to interject on our part as far as our field's concerned. But the water can't flow the way he's got it forced to flow now. It just fills the ditches, runs into our field. But the biggest thing is the road itself.
Is this the property to the north that's changed the water flow?
To the north, correct, at the bottom of the hill.
There used to be a ditch that come off his property, maybe a foot wide. Now this ditch he's dug out is probably close to 5 feet wide and 2 feet deep. It used to be just maybe a foot deep at the most, but now it's probably 5 foot wide and 2 foot deep. So all this extra water's coming down through there, no place to go. The tubes are plugged now. I've had Kyle come out last year and he said they're open. He said they're not open a lot, but they are open. But now they're completely shut off and the dirt is above them.
Even if they were empty, there'd be nowhere for the water to go. The ditch on the west side of the road is completely silted in. So we were wondering if we could, one, potentially get the digging stopped, and two, get the ditches repaired to the point where the water can flow the way it has for decades.
Are they digging in the right of way, do you know?
Pardon me?
The digging is occurring in the county's right of way?
The county
yeah.
ditch.
When this first started, this ditch was maybe 2-3 foot deep. At one point, he had his backhoe down in it, and you could barely see the top of his backhoe. That's how deep it is on one end now.
The top of the cab.
And that's how the water used to run from, that's on the south end, and that's where the water started, and it's supposed to go to the north, where there's no way now, because you got his ditch on the north end, higher than the road, because you've got so much dirt piled in there.
Water from either direction can only flow one way, and that's right across the top of the road.
I've got numerous pictures where he's dug dirt out of his ditch and piled up in the ditch to keep the water from going back to the south. It's supposed to run to the north. If we get a rain, all that dirt he's piled up had washed out into the road and on our side of the road now. And then plugging that ditch up. So we're just trying to find out who's in charge and how we stop him from digging.
I think we could, I mean, in this case, Keith, is that something we can go look at?
Keith's been out.
I've looked at it. Alan sent him a letter, I'd say a week and a half ago, but the neighbor across the way to cease and, didn't see a copy of the letter, so I can't tell you exactly what it says, but to cease and desist. But that's one thing, assuming that he does choose to stop. Doug, you ought to remember this down there by Salisbury, Keokuk, water over the road. This is not new. The degree of problem has just increased. We've dealt with a guy before, and you know, he's of a mind, you know, he owns the middle of the road, so it's his place. He'll do anything he wants on his property. But he has heard from Alan. Don't know if he's stopped, but that aside, the real issue is what do we do now? Because we've created a mess that it's going to cost.
Yeah.
A mess has been created by others that will cost, in my opinion, a fortune to undo if it can be undone. It's a bad situation. I discussed with them, we had not physically tight closed the road yet, but at this point, that is one thing we probably need to do until we can come up with a solution. I personally don't think there is a solution, but the safety issue, I think we need to close it tight. I mean, it is exasperated by, Salisbury's been overtopped by the Cedar at least twice this year. So water comes down through there, but.
Sure, we always have a lot of issues in there, but we don't need people modifying the natural drainage. That's
Right,
that's
it
the
doesn't want to
challenge.
drain as it is, and when you start trying to make it, I have no idea why we were trying to make it go. I have the vaguest of ideas because of statements he's made to these gentlemen, but why you try and make it go the opposite direction, because it's flatter than flat down there. It's a bad situation.
Okay. That might be one maybe we should ask Alan to
I think so.
talk about what our potential direct, it sounds like it's something we need to deal with.
Yeah. If you guys could send us some pictures as well too, I'd like that.
Yep, I've got all kinds of pictures.
Yeah, we'll be in contact with the county attorney to see what options we have. And certainly, you probably have your own options as well, but if,
Well, I always thought when you dig in Iowa, you had to file for permit to dig new waterways, and there was a gentleman, talked to Eric's been out about it, that I put a new wetland program in on top of our program, which he duck hunter, there was no problem with that, but if you don't keep his tube open, the water on the west side of the road is not gonna drain. That tube's gotta stay open, and right now it hasn't been open, because nobody's been down there to unplug it.
The big issue, as Keith said, is that even if he were to cease and desist, the damage is already done. The water can't flow the way it needs to. And I agree, it would cost a lot of money to dig these ditches back out, probably replace those tubes that flow under the road. So even if you were successful in getting him to stop, the issue with the road's not gonna go away. You know, we own the property out there, we bought the property in 2000, we're well aware that the river is gonna cause issues. But the river has never gouged the road out, even in the worst of the, well, I guess it did a while back, down at the other end, when it washed out Salisbury. But it never really affected Keokuk any. This particular issue is man-made. If you were to see where the sand has silted in on our side of the road, the west side of the road, it's real easy to see that this sand has all been washed through going that direction. This was not an issue of the river coming up and flooding and then going back down. It's due to the digging. So, and I agree with Keith, there'd be a lot of repair that would need to be done to actually put it back the way it was.
So, I mean, obviously, if you do anything in the right of way, it has to be permitted, correct, Keith?
Correct.
So this is all unpermitted work,
Should have been one calls made too if you did.
yeah.
I've been
Sure,
calling
that-
for 2 years. I've got,
No, I'm talking to, you know,
oh,
I will
okay.
dig, call the dig, replant a tree, anything.
So I think that's the, I think there are mechanisms on the books probably, and we just need to talk with the county attorney and make sure that we stop it, and then, look at, how they're gonna fund their reparations of what they've done.
Well, I talked to, when Keith came out that same day, he was down there digging again, and I confronted him, said, what are you trying to achieve? And I said, when did the county hire you to take care of the roads? Because he was out with his bucket and backhoe dragging the road. I said, you don't work for the county. I said, you can't be dragging these roads. He said, I can do anything I want, when I want. And he's always been that way. So that's what you're gonna get when you talk to him.
I mean, we'll certainly pursue the remedies or see what's available to us through the county attorney, but I'm guessing that any impact ultimately that it has permanently on your land is gonna require private remedies.
Sure.
Right, and I told him that too. I said, I don't wanna get to the place where we have to hire a lawyer
Yeah.
to fight you in court to get, because we don't own a backhoe. And that's all gotta be dug out.
The damage to the field is just temporary. I mean, it's, if you can't farm a quarter of it, it's, because of the water, that's one thing. But it's the repair that would need to be done in the ditch in order to keep the water out.
I don't think you can do that in a day down there, to dig all them ditches out, what he's called. So, thank you for your.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Then seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, discussion and possible action to approve claims dated June 24th, 2019 in the amount of $409,383.35.
Move to approve.
Second.
Scott has moved, Jeff has seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Item number 5, discussion with County Engineer Keith White. Okay, sir.
Morning. We have 2 utility permits this morning. The first is from CenturyLink of Bettendorf, Iowa. And it is essentially relocating about 300 feet of cable on North Ice, just north of 155th. And this is for our bridge replacement project there. This is why they're doing that. And second is Eastern Iowa Light and Power REC of Wilton, Iowa. And they are replacing a cable on 231st Street, also known as G28, on the north side of the road from (2230) G28 west to Hilltop Drive. And I don't know why, other than I think they have a bad cable in there. It's not related to our project.
Is there a motion?
Okay, I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Jeff has moved, Scott has seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Projects update.
On the design side, 231st G28, Hickory Hills located a portion of their line. Power and Water has been talking to us a little bit about that private water line, and I think they might be involved in helping that subdivision deal with their water line conflict. And Bridgestone, we have not heard back from them yet on them locating their line. We're not too sure. Their line was put in like '63, and we don't believe it's in service or has been for a long, long time, but we're still looking for information on that. The seal coat and reclamation, we're still expecting Manats here about Wednesday. Unless weather moves them back. Our Iron City grading, I think Peterson is fairly, we got back the contract and the bond. We didn't have their insurance certificate yet, so we'll probably have the contract documents for next Monday. And I believe we're gonna have frankly a pre-construction with them soon. I think they'll wanna get started on that Iron City relocation. And the other thing is highway, the DOT's Highway 22 project. We've been trying to communicate with them. We heard, Iowa, who's always doing work from us, we heard from them that they had been trying to get a hold of the county engineer and they just couldn't do it, which led to a call to the district engineer for me and saying, what's with that? When I eventually talked to them, said, well, we sent you this email and you didn't respond. I'm going, okay, can you tell me when? Well, I have no email. Well, I sent it to kwhite@musco.gov. I'm going, well, that's not what it is. Well, it must have changed. No, it's been the same for 21 years. It's the same on all the emails that you're copied in on. So we're finally at the, I'm not gonna say the 13th hour, beyond the 11th hour, they're finishing up out there. We are, I think the general public, you drive down the road, that part, you're gonna go, this thing's great, but when you look at things with our eyes, the things that we do all the time, we're going, there's a number of things we're very, very unhappy about. I have some assurances from the district engineer, that would be the boss of this district, that they're going to do things to our satisfaction. Had that discussion with my staff again yet this morning, so it's just kind of an ongoing. I'll give you an example at Wildcat Den. If you're coming southbound to our road, there's a right turn lane there. And when we drove past there last week, the asphalt came out maybe 10, 12 feet and just went like that. And I'm telling the district engineer that when the snowplow driver goes through the windshield this winter, we'll be coming to see him. I mean, we're hearing from the contractor who also is working on our projects that they have no idea what they're doing out there, what the DOT wants. So this is kind of an ongoing discussion, just so you're aware. Back when they designed this project, they never spoke to us, which over half the time they usually do, but they did not. They left the project with no acknowledgement of our, I don't know what we got, 16 side roads out there, let alone if you live there and have a driveway. So no bid prices for that. I do have an assurance from the district engineer that the prices, which were already astronomical, are now out of the solar system, that the DOT is going to pick up above and beyond. Because frankly, if they weren't, we'd have just said, forget it, and we'll take care of it ourselves. And we could end up there yet, but just want you to be aware, we're having a little discussion out there, and it's not, we're not talking small dollars. The DOT number will be about 90 grand that additional that they would have placed on us. So, but we're really concerned at our paved road intersections that I went back and said, you know, we normally would go back 50 feet, mill in 1.5 inches and meet that. We see out there little short things raked out to nothing that they'll peel off. Other than the vertical one that I told you about, they'll peel off this coming winter. So hopefully we get that stuff corrected.
I know a lot of their approaches were about this long.
Yeah.
And straight up.
Yep.
And in a school bus, you feel like you're gonna tip over when you make that turn.
So we're really kind of still in the middle of that, but we're hoping to at least correct that on our roads. I think that's all I have. During questions, let me touch on Keokuk again briefly. Again, I didn't see the exact content of Alan's letter, but I know he was to tell them to cease and desist, and I think he pretty also was telling that we were going to charge them for correction, but you know, if any of you get a chance, you can go down there and look. This is another stretch of road in the swamp that the water, I'm sure the landowner that's been doing the work is, in his mind, doing it with good intentions, but you know, it's been a horrible ongoing mistake down there, and I mean, there's sand everywhere.
Is there a drainage district that operates in that area?
No, I don't believe so.
So they do not have a drainage district in that
Right.
part.
Is that where the triple tubes are? Is there triple tubes?
Well, there's
there?
4 there, yeah, and they are probably 85% plugged. There's a little bit of water, but yeah, it hits those, it turns, it goes the opposite direction now till it hits a giant mound of sand, and then it's regularly crossing the road there. It's one of those, again, even with corrective action, we have to think about how much money we want to spend there, or if we need to be
Well, Keith, as we've talked
totally
about this,
closing the road.
I'm working off a memory here, because I believe there's no other homes between the gentleman that's doing the work in the ditch and Salisbury, am I correct?
You're correct. Yep, you're correct. He's at, his drive's at the base of the hill. So you, the gentleman that came in, they, at least temporarily, they didn't object to closing the road. We had not closed it tight yet. But that will probably do and go from there.
On your project updates, Keith, you had Manats starting on Wednesday. Where are they starting at?
We call it the Steel Mill Road, but they plan to start, it's 112 from Moscow over to Wilton. That's where they plan to start.
And you said they're putting on a seal coat?
They have, in that case, on that road, they have a reclamation project and then seal coat. It's a seal coat road. And then after that, they're moving to Underwood. But contractors are like the weather. You don't always get what you're told, so.
Okay.
That's what they've told us.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Keith. Okay, moving on to item number 6. Discussion and possible action to approve ordinance 06-24-1901, rezoning certain real property in 76 Township, Muscatine County, Iowa, from C2 Commercial District zoning to R1 Residential District zoning on the third and final reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Jeff, second by Santos. This is a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Santos?
Aye.
I vote aye. Scott?
Aye.
And Doug? Aye. Passes. Item number 7, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the June 17th, 2019 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jeff has moved, Santos has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Item number 8, correspondence. Santos, let's start on your end.
No correspondence.
Jeff?
Nothing to note.
I did not have anything to note. Scott?
I had nothing to know.
And Doug?
The only thing we had was somebody who applied for a job position and didn't get it done correctly or in time.
Okay. Committees. Doug?
Wednesday, the 19th was Wilton Development. Thursday, the 20th was Muscatine, 5 o'clock, and then at 8 o'clock Thursday was Fair Board meeting.
Scott?
On Monday the 17th was Conservation Board, and they've got their, out of Discovery, they've got their new playground equipment in, and the rubber compound is in place. Kurt sent a couple pictures of that along, and I think there's a little bit of concrete that needs to be poured for the restroom and so on to get everything opened up there, but I'm sure everyone in the neighborhood as well as the park participants are really gonna enjoy that. It's a wonderful looking facility, I'll tell you. And then Wednesday the 19th, I had Riverbend Transit, and probably the strongest point of that meeting was Riverbend Transit was able to secure the bid for the Davenport School District, which is a big deal for their budget. And so they had a 3-year contract, and with an option for a second 3-year contract. So that certainly helps the cash flow of that operation. That's all I have.
On Wednesday last week, I had the FEMA briefing, which was very involved. That's certainly going to be a lot of work, it looks like. And on Monday, I had the Mental Health Disability Services Regional Meeting. We talked about budget. We also had several of our local legislators in attendance, including from covering Muscatine County, Mark Lofgren, our senator. So we appreciate everyone who did come. Jeff?
On the 18th, Monday, we had the Magic meeting, just to do some administrative cleanup and get the budget set for next year, or approved or implemented. And then on the 20th, we had the Muscom MCC JCC committee meeting. And that was it.
And Santos.
On correspondence, I wanted to go back. I did get an email as well on the position applied for and not met all the needs. On committee reports, I met on Thursday with We Lead, and we had a meeting with the stakeholders in regards to housing needs for West Liberty, and some of the major employers came in and discussed about how 50% of their employees live outside of the city and are traveling from Iowa City or Muscatine and looking for ways to become more creative. I spoke at the meeting as well too and discussed about, you know, potentials with TIFs or tax abatements and incentives to try to get developers just to look at building in the community. And we looked at some locations within the community as well, and had a good meeting in regards to major stakeholders for the We Lead and that development need for housing in the area, which is something that I wanted to tell Eric as well too. He sent me some information in regards to what we have done in the county and how we're helping stimulate that too. But West Liberty itself also has a major need for housing. That's what we discussed.
Item number 10 is to receive information from county employees. Anybody? Sir Keith?
That reminded me of a couple things I should have covered. I also attended the kickoff meeting with FEMA last Wednesday. I myself saw nothing new there. They pretty well went through all the slides line by line. I'll be the lead for the county's application. Kurt Weiss spoke to me, and we've always included him under us before, so we'll do that there. It saves duplicating the administrative paperwork up front. And then I wanted to mention upcoming Thursday is the technical committee meeting by state where we're discussing the upcoming fund division. Us and Scott County jointly, with us being the lead, are applying for 4.7 million. I believe the city is in for Muscatine is in for 2 million. You know, they wanted $1.5 million, and I recommended to Brian that he put in for 2 to Brian Steinman. The wild card in this is the city of Long Grove's in there for, I don't know, about $3-4 million. The small cities are already way ahead of their share, of which they actually have none, but way ahead. So it'll be interesting to see what the battle is, and I'll want to talk to our reps on the policy board of what, after that, of what's going forward, and you know, if the votes are going to be contentious or not.
We just got a request for the policy board to meet. They gave us some dates in July, and I've requested the agenda items first because I want to see what they're trying to slip in there. I'm a little worried, so I would definitely want to meet with you.
The city of Muscatine's been a little bit behind on their fair share. That's why I suggested they up it. Whether or not it ends up dividing that way. And Scott County's been a little bit behind. We've been a little bit ahead because we're a little more proactive. And so that 4.7, I believe I asked, again, I wrote the app, so it's 2.7 million for Scott and 2 million for us. So, and that would cover all the dollars that are available for programming. So hopefully that's what goes forward. But usually if the city and the 2 counties vote together, we're okay.
You haven't put us into a good debate in the policy committee for a while, Keith, so thanks.
Well, hopefully it isn't that, but it might be interesting. So, that's all I have.
Thank you, Keith. All right, item number 11, items with the administration office. 11A is discussion and possible action to approve resolution 06-24-1901, fiscal year 2019-20 budget appropriations.
Move to approve.
Jeff has moved. Scott has seconded. This is a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Scott? Aye. Doug? I vote aye. Santos?
Alright,
Item 11B is discussion and possible action to approve resolution 06-24-1902, suspending the collection of taxes.
Move to approve.
Jeff has moved. Scott has seconded. This is another roll call vote. Scott? Aye. Doug? Aye. I vote aye. Jeff?
Aye.
And Santos.
alright,
11C, discussion and possible action to approve resolution 06-24-1903, naming depository for the treasurer's office.
Move to approve.
Jeff has moved. Scott has seconded. Another roll call vote. Santos?
alright,
Jeff?
Aye.
I vote aye. Scott? Aye. And Doug? Item 11D is discussion and possible action to approve appointments to the Muscatine County Compensation Commission for the period of July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020.
This is the commission that we talked about.
Okay.
I believe last week we're supposed to have 28 members, 7 in each category. This is what we have. We continue to try to find people who are willing to serve. This group only is a pool that a judge can pull from if there's a condemnation hearing, so they rarely, if ever, actually have meetings. We will be posting on our website some information to try to generate some more volunteers, but if you guys have anybody that you think of that might be interested, if you give me their contact information, I'd be happy to reach out to them and see if we can't find some more members. But our difficulty in finding membership is not unusual. Counties all across Iowa are experiencing the same issue.
you said condemnation for properties, is that for in the city limits as well too, or is this just for county?
I don't know that I can answer that question. I think it was anywhere in the county. So I think it's county-wide, but I can find the answer out for you.
Okay. And then probably on that heading of this new board, probably we change the titles because it still has the previous supervisors on there.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Santos has moved, Jeff has seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. And will you thank those who are willing to serve in this capacity? Thank you very much. All right, item 11E is discussion and possible action to reappoint Stacy Eberhard to the Muscatine County Compensation Board for a 4-year term ending June 30th, 2023.
No second.
Scott has moved, Jeff has seconded. All those in favor?
Just a note, Leslie, that Stacy puts an E before the Y on her name.
Okay.
Thank you to Stacy very much. Item 11F is schedule fiscal year end cash counts.
As part of our requirement for our audit at the close of the fiscal year, we need to do cash counts of any of our offices that have a cash inventory. We typically try to do this right at the close of business on on this year. It would be the 28th, June 28th. The other option would be if a supervisor cannot make that, they could schedule to come in and do theirs the morning of July 1st before the open of business. The offices that we have to do are recorder, auditor, county attorney, assessor, conservation, jail, engineer, and treasurer. Typically, one board member takes recorder, auditor, county attorney, and assessor, because those are all real quick ones. One board member takes conservation, one board member takes the jail, one board member takes the engineer's office, and one board member takes the treasurer's office. All of these departments try to have all their cash as closed out as they can and deposits made so that it's a pretty simple process in all of the offices. But you guys need to pick what you want your assignments to be.
Yeah, I have done the jail for a number of years. I'd be happy to do it again.
Okay.
And I will do the engineer's office as I've done in the past as well. That works well for me.
So that leaves treasurer, conservation, and then the 4 small offices in this building.
Scott and, or Scott Santos and Doug, do you guys have any preferences?
I could do the treasurers.
Okay.
Doug, what do we got left?
Conservation and then recorder, auditor, assessor, and county attorney general. I'll do it again.
Conservation.
All right, I will take the 4 then.
And I have sheets that I'll give you when we recess to do those counts, that tell you exactly what you're looking for.
Anything further, Nancy?
I do not, other than a reminder, we'll be doing interviews this afternoon, starting at 1.
And we are in recess until 1 o'clock.